You think you know how bad the Rams running game is, but you don't. It's much worse than you think. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single day, free and available wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. My name is Travis Rogers. You can see it right there on the screen if you're checking us out on our Locked On Rams YouTube page, which is a great way to take in the podcast. I would also recommend that you click the subscribe button in your podcast feed so you get your Rams content every single day. Not only do I host the Locked On Rams pod, but I also host the Rams pregame, halftime, and postgame show with my partner Kirk Morrison on our flagship station, ESPN 710. I've been doing that since the Rams came back to Los Angeles way back in 2016. Seems like a lifetime ago, seems like 5 minutes ago, depending on which part of the season we're in. Right now, feels like a long time ago. That Super Bowl feels like a long time ago. We'll get into all of that in just a little bit. Follow me on Twitter at my name, at Travis Rogers. That is a good way to do that. Also, let me remind you that today's pod is brought to you by PrizePicks, right? PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. Pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than your PrizePicks projections, you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match of up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. That's PrizePicks.com, promo code Locked On. Here's what's coming up on the pod today. I want to talk about I want a better word than energy, spark, passion. I don't have it. I don't have the vocabulary to find it, but whatever that word, joie de vivre, perhaps, if we're getting a little bit more international, the Rams do not have it. Whose responsibility is it to find it? That's coming up in just a little bit. And I have a question for you. I unfortunately believe that the Rams playoff hopes are, maybe not mathematically over, but practically over. And I believe that probably even prior to the game against Arizona. But I have a hypothetical that I want to get into. What would this team look like if they had to play real games, meaningful games, with John Wolford as their backup quarterback? Is he good enough in the event that, whether it's next season or beyond, that you have a game where Matthew Stafford is in concussion protocol? Let's use that as an example. Is that good enough at that position moving forward? But let's start with this. Let's start with the Rams running game. Now, there are a million explanations as to why the Rams running game has been as ineffective as it is. There are the obvious one. 9 games into the season, the Rams have played 9 different offensive lines. There's been no continuity up front, and that is certainly a good starting point as to why this team has not run the ball effectively. There is a rotating cast of backs that you've seen Darrell Henderson. We've seen Cam Akers. We saw very briefly Kyren Williams. We have seen Ronnie Rivers. We have seen Malcolm Brown. We have seen them try to run the ball with Cooper Kupp. We've seen them try to run it with Ben Skoranek. We've seen them try a whole bunch of guys to run that ball, and it has not been successful. And when you don't have a guy, when you got a bunch of guys, it means you don't have any guys. And I think that's where the Rams find themselves right now. There's, I think, a good chunk of this falls directly on Sean McVay and his, I don't know if refusal is the right word, but certainly his reluctance to stick to the running game. We've seen it before in that opening script. The Rams have had a little bit of success on the ground, and then very quickly they go away from it, and they seem hesitant to give it any real try after the opening drive or so. That's a big part of it. But while all of those things add up to a running game that has gone nowhere, I don't know if anybody really has grasped how bad this has been. The Rams are the only team in the league without a running back to have gone over the 65-yard mark this season. They've only gone over 50 yards twice, once for Darrell Henderson, once for Cam Akers. Every other team in the league has gone over 65 with a back this season. 29 of the 32 teams have gone over that more than once. The Rams have done it 0 times. And I think for all the reasons that we just talked about, that's a big part of it, right? But I think the part that jumped out me at the most is they haven't had a big run, period. Never mind 65 yards in a game. They haven't had a 40-yard run on the ground. They haven't had one play that, boom, there it is. How often have we seen the Rams give up a play like that? How often have we seen the Rams defense, not give up 75-yard, but just big plays on the ground? Happens occasionally. It's the NFL. Running backs are pretty good. They hit that hole, boom, they're gone. They're through. It's a 25, 30-yard, 35-yard gain. It happens occasionally. The Rams haven't even had a carry that could get you near enough to 65 yards to where you rip off half of it on one play, and now you can just do your 2.5 yards a carry from that point. They haven't been able to hit big plays at all of this together. And no wonder they are where they are. No wonder they're 3-6. No wonder they're going into a game in New Orleans where New Orleans may be considering a quarterback change. Their head coach, Dennis Allen, was talking about maybe putting Jameis Winston back in. And before you say, oh, that's good news, think about Jameis Winston. We saw him at the Coliseum a few years ago when he looked like the second coming of Johnny Unitas and just tore the Rams up, threw for 500 yards and 1 billion touchdowns or whatever it was. But he looked pretty darn good along the way. If you can't run the ball to the tune of 65 yards once, of course, I understand it's a modern NFL. You throw the ball, you drop back, you chuck it, you spread the field, bah, 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 bah. None, not one person has gone for 65 yards. Not one player has a single running play that's gone for more than 30 the entire season. How is that even possible? How have we gotten to this point where this team has fallen? So I understand they throw the ball. You have Matthew Stafford to throw the ball. You have Cooper Kupp to throw the ball. You went and signed Allen Robinson to throw the ball. You got a guy like Van Jefferson who, at least for a minute appeared to be on the right track to throw the ball. None, not one guy over 65 yards. It is a remarkable feat or lack thereof in my estimation. And it's just a terrific indicator of where they are offensively. They can't get the ball to anybody to Kupp. He's down. They don't have anybody that can run. They don't have anybody that can block. They might be using another backup quarterback this week. And here you are. Nowhere. Absolutely nowhere offensively. And the running game is the biggest problem because of that. There are extenuating circumstances like we've talked about, but they didn't have it blocked up once where somebody could pop a big play. It's shocking we're past the halfway point and that statistic is still out there right now. Mention the backup quarterback there for a second. Let's get into that next. Do the Rams have the right guy in that spot? And what happens if they get into meaningful games and they have to play John Wolford? That's coming up next on Locked On Rams. If you haven't tried PrizePicks yet, I don't know exactly what you're waiting for because it's a great way to play daily fantasy when you're watching football, when you're watching basketball, really whatever it is that you're into. And PrizePicks is a great way to do it. You don't have to go through a million other people. You don't have to beat all these experts and sharps. What you have to do is take a look at the projections. For instance, Patrick Mahomes, more or less than 320 yards. Derrick Henry, more or less than 85 yards. You make a decision on numbers like that, and then you make your call. Pick 2 to 5 players. If they go or more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. No competing against other people. It's just you against the projections. Entries can be made in about 60 seconds or less. It is really that easy to do it. It's safe and it's fast to withdraw your money. Download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match of up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, they'll give you $50. So don't forget the promo code Locked On and sign up for an instant deposit match of up to $100. So it's holiday season, right? And while that means a bunch of wonderful things, you get to spend time with friends and family and really get to lean into all the wonderful stuff that comes along with doing all of that. It's also times when burglaries and package thefts go through the roof, right? And that's why our friends at SimpliSafe Home Security are offering 50% off of their award-winning security system so that more families like mine, like yours, can feel safe and secure this holiday season. Order your SimpliSafe system for half off today and enjoy advanced security and greater peace of mind this holiday season. Here's what's terrific about SimpliSafe and their advanced technology. You can do the entire thing from the app on your phone. You can keep an eye on your property and what's going on at your house on your phone. Crystal clear HD live streaming of your security cameras and just an incredible array of high-tech sensors. It's a great way to protect your property and to protect your family. SimpliSafe was named the best home security system for 2022 by U.S. News and World Report. That makes 3 years in a row. So don't miss your chance to save big on the only security system I would recommend. Get 50% off on a new SimpliSafe system at simplisafe.com/locked on today. I should say locked on NFL today. That is their biggest discount of the year, so don't wait. That's simplisafe.com/locked on NFL. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. Thanks for making Locked On Rams your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today pod. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. It went on yesterday. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, so while the 2022 season has certainly not unraveled the way that Rams fans, Ram players, Ram coaches, Ram anything would have anticipated or hoped, there are some opportunities that are in front of this group for the remainder of this season, and really, kind of looking forward into next season. While I'm going to imagine everybody is going to get a fairly thorough evaluation of their performance this year. And a lot of guys, I can't imagine that you're bringing back a lot of this after seeing what you've seen so far this year. A lot of guys are going to be gone. I think one of the players that to really think about moving forward is the backup quarterback position. And we're talking about John Wolford and we're talking about Bryce Perkins. Bryce Perkins got a ton of time during the preseason and brought an element to the team that's unique to him. It's exciting. It's more athletic than what Matthew Stafford does. And there's a little bit of unpredictability that when the play doesn't work exactly as it was supposed to, that he can still maybe find something out of nothing. But he's a work in progress, right? He's only those snaps he got against Arizona a couple of days ago were the first snaps that he's had in the NFL during the regular season. So who knows? And it's your third quarterback. So, okay. The part to me that's the most interesting is John Wolford. That did not look like an NFL caliber performance. Much like we talked about with the running game, and much like we've talked about with Matthew Stafford so far this season, there are mitigating factors, namely the offensive line, namely the offensive weapons not named Cooper Kupp, and even Cooper Kupp did not have the success that he typically has had. It did not look good. The throws were late. The throws, there was no anticipation in these moments, and it was obvious that he was not up for the job to me. Sean McVay probably feels differently. Here's my question to Rams fans. And if you want to post this in the comments, I would love to hear from you. What if that game on Sunday mattered? What if instead of being 3-5, the Rams were 5-3? What if instead of being near the bottom of the NFC West, they were at the top of the NFC West? They were battling to win the division. They're battling for playoff position. And this game had a great deal of importance. Now, it didn't. I understand that. But let's just, for the sake of this, say that it did. Let's say that the exact same circumstances are in play, that Matthew Stafford suffers a concussion, goes into concussion protocol, and he's unable to go. And now you're running that guy out there. Take a look at what the Cardinals had. And it was fortunate and also a little bit jarring that the Cardinals were in virtually the same position that the Rams were in as far as playing a backup quarterback. And look at the different performances that you got. Now, the biggest explanation for that is just experience, right? Colt McCoy has been around this league for a very long time, had varying levels of success, but has been in the NFL for a long time. There's not a ton of things that you're going to throw at him that he's never seen before, or that it's going to take him more than a series or two to, oh, this is football. This guy goes here, that guy goes there. I look over here, I throw it over there. He knows what he was doing. He was throwing with anticipation. He had full comprehension of the offense that they were running. And the Cardinals looked like an NFL team. The Rams did not. The John Wolford was late. John Wolford was sailing throws, but maybe it's rust. Maybe it's the fact that he's a smaller guy. He's not a big, strong guy back there like Matthew Stafford, and able to kind of look over the top of the offensive lineman. Maybe it's not that. The point is, there are Colt McCoys available out there. There are guys that have been around the NFL for a long time that are not starting quarterbacks in this league anymore, but they're good enough to get you through a week. They're good enough to maybe get you through a couple of weeks. Look at what Tyler Heineke is doing with the Washington Commanders. He may actually be, in fact, better than Carson Wentz, but this is somebody that comes in and the offense functions. The team functions. The Rams offense did neither of those things on Sunday against the Arizona Cardinals. It just wasn't there. And in large part of that's because John Wolford was not very good. He was not the only problem, but when there were opportunities, they were unable to take advantage of them because they just didn't execute the throws properly. And even when the throws were completed, they weren't on time, they weren't in stride, and there was no run after catch. It just wasn't great. Now, maybe some of this is he hasn't played a lot of football in a long time, and I'm willing to listen to that. But I'm just saying that a veteran NFL quarterback who's maybe on the backside of his career, who isn't the starting player that he used to be, who's comfortable assuming a backup role as opposed to a project, seems like a much better way to go with this. All right, coming up next, what is missing? What is that little thing that good teams have that the Rams simply have struggled to find this year? That's coming up next on Locked On Rams. Word from our pals at Built Bar. Let's just take a breath, right? Okay, here we go. You got to try these Built Bar flavors. They are new, reimagined Built Bar flavors. How does this sound? Cookie dough topper, sure. Coconut brownie bar. Who doesn't like coconut? Coconut brownie topper, yes. White chocolate peppermint granola. It's Built's take on the granola bar, so it's more filling and it's still unbelievably tasty. And candy cane brownie puffs. Built puffs are like biting into the universe's most delicious cloud. First off, anyone who hasn't tried Built bars before, they are the best tasting protein bars ever built. Get it? Revolutionizing nutrition as we know it. It's 100% real chocolate, 17 grams of protein, shockingly low sugar and calories, and just 130 calories. And the magical, wonderful time afterwards, you're probably wondering which new flavors are my favorite. Anything with coconut. Anything with coconut is a great way to do it, but they're all unbelievable and they're all different. So you can order a mixed box and try all flavors for yourself. Built. You got to try it. Get 15% off your order right now using the code LOCKEDON15 at built.com. Thanks for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single day. Reminder to click that subscribe button in your podcast feed. Check us out on YouTube as well. Our Locked On Rams YouTube page is a good way to do that. This may be the most difficult thing to quantify in athletics, in life, quite frankly. When do you have it? When do you not? When do you have that little something that lets you know what? This is pretty good. This is something special. This is not something that everybody else has. I don't know. Pick your synonym. Fight, passion, spark, the little something that comes out of really good teams. Something that the Rams had in what I would say in abundance last year. That little thing that, we're not dead yet. That little thing of they're going to figure it out. That thing that lets you know that, it may not be there yet, but you can see it coming down the tracks. This goes back to let's go all the way back to the beginning of Sean McVay's tenure as the head coach of the Rams. And there was this bounce. There was this life in the building all of a sudden that was not there under Jeff Fisher. Jeff Fisher was stale. Jeff Fisher was predictable, and the team was not very good. And it was as obvious as the nose on your face when they would go out there on the field. You knew exactly what they were going to do. They would go out there and do it. It would be uninspiring. It would more often than not lose. And then they'd go back and do it again. And there was no expectation that it was going to change. Sean McVay rolls in. And everything is different. You don't know what it's going to look like from week to week. You don't know who's going to be the big guy of the day. You don't know how many points they're going to score. You don't know they're going for it. They're getting big plays on special. Everything will be like, here we go. They're going to find a way to get this done. And we've seen that over Sean McVay's career. And that's been more or less the vibe around his teams. Not this year. Now, the easy answer is injuries, right? That they've been absolutely incredibly unlucky with the injury bug. And that kind of ebbs and flows in the NFL. Sometimes you're a little bit more lucky than others, and they are not this year. But it's not just that. Aaron Donald has been here. Jalen Ramsey has been here. Bobby Wagner is here. Cooper Kupp up until recently was here. Matthew Stafford until recently was here. These are big time. Sean McVay is still here. And it's flat. And it's predictable, and it's the same, and it hasn't changed. And even after a star player, a team leader like Jalen Ramsey comes out and says, what the world is going on around here? We got to do better. You guys aren't pulling your weight. We're doing everything right. And you thought, okay, maybe this will be the moment that galvanizes everybody and brings them together. They go out against Arizona and do the exact same thing again. And maybe at this point, it's too late. I mean, it's too late as far as the results go. But I think the thing that has been the most disappointing for me is not just the losing, which is a close second. It's the fact that you can see it coming. It's the fact that the week one, my co-host Alan Slewa said something interesting that from the opening game of the season against Buffalo, they got steamrolled, right? And they've never had a spark since. And they've won a couple of games, 3 to be specific, but there's never been okay, there it is. That looks like a Sean McVay team. That looks like Matthew Stafford. Oh, there's Aaron Donald. All right, Jalen Ramsey's doing something. And it's not just their play, it's the aura that's around the team. It's the little extra spark, the joy, the passion, I'm going to find a way to get this done. Everybody's working, everybody's doing what they're supposed to do, and none of these things are getting done. There's something missing. And I don't know if you can find it by now. I don't know whose responsibility that is to find it. Certainly Sean McVay bears some responsibility in that. Certainly team leaders like Aaron Donald and Matthew Stafford bear a great deal of responsibility in that. But I do think that if it was going to show up, it probably would have shown up by now. I keep talking myself into, well, if they can just win this week, and maybe if they can win at New Orleans, we can have a different conversation next week. But if there was ever a time, panic is not the right word, but to just light a fire under everybody and just have everybody let it hang out on every single play. Well, the time to do it was about 2.5 weeks ago. But right now, I mean, let's see if they can find some semblance of that life and that spark that they've had before, because it just is not there. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Rams. Thanks for making us your first listen. Now, for your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today pod. Biggest story of the day, instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. It's available on Odyssey, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.